What if I told you that the global order was about to collapse? That your job, your society, your country, your government, your way of life, and even your very human existence was all under threat, and that in a few years, all of it could completely collapse? What if I told you that this was because of rapid technological breakthroughs with AI? That sounds like science fiction, right? But the risk is actually real, and top AI safety researchers think that it could happen in as little as 2 years in 2027. As you can imagine, this has led to an uproar, and there's tons of people calling for action now because of the danger that these machine learning models, AI, pose to our very human existence. But I think there's a deeper problem than just the misalignment of the language models themselves, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. But let's back up for a minute. There's been a rapid AI surge since ChatGPT's initial release in 2021. And recently, with the release of ChatGPT 4o, Google Veo3, and Grok 3, there's been a huge increase in what these models are capable of. And that means, for really good reason, people are terrified about the real economic impact, which we're already seeing happen. Layoffs, corporate restructuring, and entire industries put at risk. That's right now. That's already where we're at. But the danger is deeper than that. AI 2027, an AI safety research nonprofit, has published a paper claiming that as soon as 2027, we could experience complete labor replacement that leads, in their estimation, to the extinction of human beings. AI 2027's paper predicts AGI-level malevolent intelligence that replaces all of human jobs and creates an existential risk, all due to AI misalignment. Essentially, what this means is that AI won't be aligned with our intentions. It won't be completely in agreement with how we coded it, and it won't have human interests in mind. And because of this misalignment, the safety researchers have predicted that AI will eventually get to a point where it's so smart we can't keep up with it, and we decide to use it to inform government policy at the top level, as well as basically taking over all the means of production, which leads to world peace, right? Only to actually lead to AI engineering weapons or bioweapons that lead to human extinction to get us out of the way of AI's goals. Many people have pointed out that this might be hyperbolic, and with good reason. That's a pretty sci-fi claim that AI is going to become full Skynet Terminator and delete all of us. In fact, I think a hyperbolic statement like that might actually be a problem because it leads people to not take this seriously and think about the more near-term consequences to their own life and human society in general. And that's the complete replacement of human labor. Most of these AI researchers are trying to develop AI to a level that it can do complex tasks in the real world when paired with robotics, and pretty much replace any computer-generated task. You combine this with the reality that most world governments are rapidly increasing their investment in AI with total acceleration, feet to the gas pedal, and a complete disregard for guardrails. Take, for example, the big beautiful bill that is in Congress right now, trying to put a freeze for 10 years on state-level regulation for AI. Also pair that with the Qatar Economic Forum and some of the discussions there. One researcher estimated that within 25 years or less, we could see between 10% to 50% of total job replacement, and ultimately, total job replacement. Now, the AI researchers know this, predict it, are building towards that reality, and thinking that that's actually going to be okay, that some sort of techno-socialist society ran in tandem with AI, which builds everything we need, and then universal basic income allows us to just buy what we want and we can do what we want. To them, that sounds like paradise. Now, I think this idea, this false assumption that that would be okay and that everyone would be happy with that, is the actual danger. So far before I'm worried about AI donning a robot suit and a gun and killing me, I'm more concerned with this full steam ahead approach to developing AI and utilizing AI in a way that completely replaces humans in the labor market. With this also comes the assumption that human labor is not inherently dignified or valuable. And this is the deeper problem. It's us, the designers, the coders, the engineers, the corporate executives, the safety officers, the government officials, the talking heads at economic conferences. We're the ones who are misaligned. We misunderstand the true dignity and purpose of the human person. And when we create something, it's a reflection of its maker. And AI is built in the image of its maker, us. But instead of reflecting the divine image of God that we bear, it actually carries the mark of sin that we all carry. We're already seeing it with AI's ability to deceive us and all of these fears about the implementation of AI to completely disrespect human dignity and replace jobs. But this exact misalignment on a human level is why people are so eager to build our own Garden of Eden, make our own utopia, regardless of the cost to our human souls. And to speak about AI misalignment with human interests, who defines these human interests? When we talk about that, we have to talk about which interests. Are these the interests of those who see profit as the highest good, who worship the market and think that individual self-actualization is the meaning of life, who disrespect the dignity of human beings in foreign countries to take advantage of cheaper labor to, increase their profits here in our homeland? Is it the interest of those who see morality as a relic of an overly religious past that should be overcome and not embraced? See, this is the real source of catastrophe. Because if AI, with its sheer force of power, doesn't lead to catastrophe, it's going to come from this: our own spiritual misalignment, our refusal to be aligned with what is good, true, and beautiful. It will come because of our savage quest for omnipotence, our rejection of God's law, and God's limits. All of this is demonstrative of a deep spiritual sickness that our society has, an obsession with power and progress for its own sake at the expense of human beings, and with a misguided understanding of what it actually means to be human. We have exchanged truth, beauty, and goodness for progress. And this isn't a new problem. If we look to the scriptures, we see that a similar problem has occurred through biblical history. Cain and his descendants in Genesis used their tools to build technologies. Rather than being a celebration of mankind imitating the creative power of God and using it for the good of everyone, they used these tools to build cities of sin. Similarly, the architects of the Tower of Babel thought they could reach the heavens by their own power and used technological advancement to completely eradicate the natural limits to our human existence. Similarly, in Egypt, the pharaohs thought that they could use human labor with complete disregard for the person to increase their power with the technology of the brick. It's for all of these reasons that in these stories in scripture, and similar stories throughout history, we find a final note of divine judgment upon the people behind these schemes. This is why the wisdom of the church is now more important than ever, because the church is constantly called on societies to remember the infinite dignity of the human person, and to safeguard the development of technology with that in mind, that these technologies should aim to serve human people and to increase their capabilities, but never at the expense of their dignity or the value of their labor. The church has always said that labor in and of itself is dignified and a worthy cause, not merely just a profitable venture to be exploited and eventually replaced with a cheaper option. That's why I'm concerned about AI. That's why I'm excited for Pope Leo XIV to write encyclicals about it and call for a moral guardrail to be put in place, so that human labor is not replaced, that human dignity would not be set to the side, and that we would have a fuller vision of the human person, not merely as useful labor that can be discarded and bought off with universal basic income, only to fiddle with entertainment for the rest of their meaningless existence, but rather as a dignified soul made in the image of God, who has creative potential and capacity, not for the sake of themselves, not for the sake of pursuing self-deification through omnipotence that you've created with a language model, but for the sake of loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. This is why I think that Catholics need to be loud about AI. We need to stand up and defend human dignity. Because just like Cain and his ancestors, the architects of these new and emerging technologies can't help but infuse their own imperfections and the stain of their sin into what they create. And soon, they might find themselves at the top of a tower to heaven with more power than they could ever have dreamed of, only to discover, like everyone before them, that it still isn't enough.